For Tuesday, June 4th, 2019. Let the record show all aldermen are present. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous committee meeting on Tuesday, May 21st.
Second.
Second by Alderman Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Unfinished business. There isn't any. New referrals for consideration. No parking east side of the 100 block of North 10th Street. Where's that?
That's,
Oh.
so this is actually, it's not the entire east side of the entire block. It's 20 feet. It's to just ask to put a sign up on the east side of North 10th, just 20 feet. What is it, Bob? Bob and I went and looked at it, past the sidewalk, or where the sidewalk ends.
Is this like a from here to corner thing?
Here to corner, yeah. So it's right where the Hadley Brook Insurance Agency is on the corner. It has a very limited sight distance, and so when you're turning, you're going westbound on West State Street, and you're turning right onto North 10th, and cars are parked right up to the end, kind of to where the sidewalk is. It creates a very dangerous situation. There's a stop sign there. There have been some near misses in the neighborhood. They just asked if we could put a sign, no parking here to corner.
I'm confused.
We're confused. I think you're talking.
Are you talking 8th Street or 10th?
Battleman,
Man is on 9.
I'm sorry.
9th, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is supposed to be
AutoZone.
8th Street. This is supposed to be 8th Street. I'm
Is
sorry.
this
having to do with the
Okay, so
Smoke.
it's 8th
No.
Street?
Well,
Yeah.
it does. I'm sorry. It should be North 8th Street.
So 8th Street, that's the one with the little
I
girl darted out a
apologize.
couple years ago, right?
Clearly.
What are you doing on your phone?
Choose us.
Yeah, that's where I live. What are you doing?
Sorry.
No parking in front of, what's your address, Chief?
Bob's
I got a hydrant in front of my house.
Sorry. Nope. It's North 8th.
We got you.
Sorry.
Is this requested by a business, John, or by a resident?
Resident. By a resident. So, yes, in part when the chicken barbecue place is up and running, people are using all the spots there, and it gets very, very hectic and dangerous in that situation. It's not limiting, it's essentially taking one parking space really away. There's still gonna be room for cars to park. Probably, I think, what did we think, Bob? Maybe there would be enough room for 2 or 3 cars to still park?
Right. Yeah, I mean, 20 foot is the standard, it's an elemental, 20 feet from back a walk or from a crosswalk. And without the sign, you can't enforce it, so.
So is it back behind, so the side of the street chicken barbecue's on, that sidewalk and the parking thing gets dangerous too. Like people are backing out of there, so it's behind that, right?
Chicken barbecue's on the west side of the street.
Yes, the west
Oh, so you
side,
can park on both sides there?
no, the west side is no parking at all,
Oh, okay.
but they have a off-street parking at the chicken barbecue place,
Right, right.
But on the east side of the street, there is parking, and what's happening is right as people turn on to North 8th.
They come up
especially
on the
when
back end of a car, is that what's happened? They come around there and there's a car sitting right there?
Yes, yes, exactly. And you can't really, because Hadley Brook is really right up on the sidewalk there. It's really tight, so that there is a limited sight distance. So just to make things, again, one of the residents on the street asked me to look into this. Bob said, yeah, that is the rule, but you can't enforce it unless there's a sign there. So, any issues or concerns? Can I bring this forward? Okay.
Cool.
We'll make sure we get the right street.
Right?
John, you might want to, if they're gonna go to something, you might want to do parking and standing.
No standing, that way nobody
Ah.
can park there, Paul. Yeah.
Thank
That way
you.
nobody can park there just to get up.
Yep, perfect.
Do we have any places in the city where there is no parking but yes standing?
Well, I'll tell you
You
on
can
Garden
stand
Avenue.
unless it says
Yes.
otherwise.
People can sit and, like there's an issue on Garden where it says no parking there behind Mickey's. We put that sign up, there's no standing, so it's just sitting there.
So it's
I wonder if it would behoove us moving forward whenever we do a thing like this. I mean, is there ever gonna be a circumstance again where we're gonna say, well, yeah, no parking, but you can hang out there for 20 minutes? I mean, the whole reason we do this is for congestion issues and safety issues, and there should never be any difference. There should always be no parking, no standing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just play devil's advocate.
Sure.
When we have an entire side of a street that's no parking, and yeah, you don't want, there's supposed to be no parking there. I think there's a difference at the end of a street where traffic is coming onto versus in the middle of a street. If I'm, so all of Winters Avenue has, I'm trying to remember what that sign is, if it's no parking, no standing, or just no parking. I think it's no parking this side.
Mm-hmm.
Like today, I pulled my truck up to load something in my house.
Technically, if there were no standing, you would be.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
No, because loading and unloading is separate.
Yeah.
Oh, you can stand while you're unloading or loading?
Your loading or unloading is different than standing.
But
What-
Bill
what would you-
specified
okay, I didn't
last.
know that.
Yeah, what's the definition of standing?
Yeah.
Car,
In the
I-
vehicle, the running, waiting to pick up somebody, or you're discharging somebody, you're waiting.
Like
Loading
we
and
have-
unloading is more for, in and out, just cargo, your.
Not children.
Right.
We-
You're pulling out
Standing
front of the school,
is-
standing there waiting to pick up your kid, you're standing.
Yeah, we have.
That's
that
not
kind of
legal,
working
because
down.
it's picking up passengers. Is standing, you can pull in momentarily to pick up merchandise or discharge merchandise or deliver merchandise. But parking, you can pull in temporarily to pick up or discharge passengers.
Okay, so would no parking, no standing still allow someone to pull in that spot, leave their car running, run over, and wait in line to buy chicken barbecue?
I would say not.
And you're not legally allowed to leave a running car unattended.
It's a lot of things from
I
driver's
don't know if
training,
I
I don't remember
can-
I think we all need a driver's training refresher.
Yeah.
Did you wanna say something?
I feel like-
I didn't need to know anything.
I feel like standing didn't exist 50 years ago. That's
Okay.
why this is
The next
becoming an
item
issue.
is the road condition on the 400 block of North 10th.
There's North 10th, that's one. Okay. So I've been approached and by members of the YMCA asking if there is any plans. I realize that this portion of North 10th Street is not on the agenda for the road repairs that we're doing this summer, but I was wondering if we could get an idea. There is a lot of old patchwork. It's a brick road, first of all, and there's a lot of old patchwork. That street is heavily utilized by all of the members at the YMCA, and specifically the east-west side of the street is really in poor condition. The east side isn't too bad, and I was wondering if maybe we could get DPW or someone to go down and kind of give an evaluation of.
We probably do have an evaluation already, Bob.
Yeah, maybe rate every street.
Mhm.
I can take a look at that. I lived at this street too, and just a couple things to add, I guess, is that, there's an ongoing effort to replace a lot of those patches, so, we could try and, prioritize, replacing those concrete patches with brick again. But I'm a little reluctant on our brick streets to do too much, right? It probably needs some TLC, but that road's been there for 50, 60 years without any kind of treatment. It's nice to have streets like that, so maybe we could look at some upgrades, but.
So I would.
Is that what you're, one of the lines you're thinking?
I'm open. I mean, I realize we don't want to go and spend $1 million to replace a brick street with a brick street, right? So I don't know anything. There are some bad areas over there, and I just thought I'd brainstorm. It's a discussion on this.
Is part of that street Berkeley and paved?
The first part off of Wayne Street is, and I don't know who paved that. If that was it would have had to have been the city, right?
City did it, yeah.
So it's paved up to the YMCA's parking lots. So the entrance part of North 10th.
I'm not sure, I can't remember if we did that when we redid Wayne Street, if we did that section Two
Used to be,
Two
it used to be a dead-end street back when Viaduct was there, I'm talking years ago. When the PRR field was there, softball field, it used to be a dead-end street, or Wayne Street went straight through. But I think it got redone. I think all those streets got connected when they actually put Wayne Street in all the way.
Well, it was
That used to be the
railroad
railroad
tracks,
tracks.
railroad that was down through there.
I think the street is a prime candidate for conversion from brick to asphalt.
Is there?
I think it holds, the street itself holds minimal historical value. It's not like, I mean, what's on there? There's the side of the, I mean, for most of this section, it's the YMCA's right side and their parking lot. What is there, 2 houses on there?
3 houses.
Maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't
Yeah.
the Oak Hill Historical District.
No.
This isn't like,
No.
Like,
it's horrendous too. When you, I mean, you go to the Y all the time. When you park in that auxiliary lot, you have to walk across that street in the winter. I mean, it's ridiculous.
And I mean, I've taken some pictures. There are a lot of, you know, it's not just that it's in bad shape. There's a lot of like really low points that fill with water, and I mean, it's not as.
That's when the street's low, in the winter.
That's when
it fills with water.
self-leveling.
Yeah, it's self-leveling. But at the same time, I realize that I don't know what an overhaul to actually, you probably just don't roll it down and throw some blacktop on it, right, Bob?
we could.
Why not?
Why not?
You just
No, it's more complicated than that. Generally, you're replacing everybody's, apron, because you're changing the grade of the road, so it's several $100,000 upgrade to completely redo the street. If you don't remove the patches and replace them properly, then they'll pop up with blacktop the same way they come up through the brick,
Nothing's ever easy.
no.
Sounds like fake news to me. No.
But I remember when I moved to this city in 2004, and I was asking why there was so much road work going on, and most of the people I was getting my answers from was the school district, but they were, there was a lot of teachers there, oh, they're doing this because they're trying to get everything under the gun before the state's law passes, which was that any street that's brick has to remain brick after a certain date. And that's what I was told that way back when, which got logged into memory. And then every time we've ever done a patch, it's always been a patch on a street. And I don't know if there's any truth to that. I heard that when I was
I don't think so.
No.
I've never heard that.
okay.
Could be.
So
I'm not saying it's not there, just because
Yeah.
I've never heard it. But.
Yeah, it might be just the historic area.
It could be.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, yeah, I think everyone would love to have that area paved over, but I realize that that's a large cost associated with that, and maybe there's just some TLC, some cleanup work that wouldn't be an exorbitant cost to the city, so.
Can I make one suggestion or comment on that? Is I see those brick streets have a lot of swales in them and stuff, and I've had a lot of bad parking lots and stuff, and I've had companies come in and spot patch them, and companies that are good at that spot patching, I mean, that thing's smooth by the time they're through with it, and a company that's adept at that can really smooth out a lumpy, bumpy street. And it might take 50 patches, but they'll do that. I mean, we just had our driveway at West State spot patched. I bet if I went around and counted them all, I bet there was 50 patches. But at the end, after it's sealed, uniform color, you almost can't see them. Not that you could seal a street because some of the brick is red, but I'm just saying.
And it was reasonably affordable, better than replacing the whole parking lot.
Oh yeah, we're talking thousands versus tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Is that what Tom Mamel brought up at a public
Okay.
comment?
Well, thank you for
I have no
that.
idea what you brought up.
Certainly, Bob, if you want to look into that and get back to us, that would be great. Request for a traffic study on North 12th Street.
So, see, I'm getting caught up. I was gone, so now I got a lot of stuff going on here. I think, so this kind of goes back to something I brought up previously about peak times. North 12th Street is very high traffic. Obviously, it's one of the only thoroughway streets that connects one side of the city with the other. And I've talked to neighbors that live on the street, residents, and they really aren't in favor of doing the complete no parking both sides. Currently, it is no parking on one side. I was talking to Bob, and he suggested, what about time frames, you know, for maybe a couple hours in the morning during peak hours that it's being used, and maybe a couple hours at, you know, 3 to 5 o'clock when people are getting out of work, getting out of Dresser, maybe limiting parking during high peak time frames. And he suggested that I request a traffic study to see what are indeed the peak time frames and would it make sense at that time. Again, this is just kind of a discussion item. It's open for.
Any other areas where we do that?
I don't know. Do we have other areas where we limit
We
just to a
had
time
one.
frame?
I think there was one over by the high school.
Left turn on First Street,
Yeah.
usually around schools.
Yeah, First and Wayne, there used to be a no right turn at certain times.
That's still there. Well, it's back up.
It was removed during construction and never put back up.
That'd be about the only one I
And
can think of.
I got a
There's one
complaint,
on
and I
Wayne
called
and-
it was still in the code, so they just put it back up.
What is that? By Mazda.
Yeah,
On
7.
12th Street, your peak time is from 5 in the morning to 7 at night.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Is
it's
it
a
really?
madhouse all
Busy
day.
all day
it
long.
is. But the other question, do all the residents on 12th, and I know I've walked that street, but I can't picture it, do they all have driveways? Or do?
No.
Not all of them, but many
Okay.
of them do.
Okay,
But many of them also have rental properties, which
Right.
You'll have more than one.
you might have more than one vehicle, and they were, you know, people were concerned about, well, if people come to visit them,
Yeah.
you know, then there's nowhere for them to park their car, and some valid concerns.
What block would you like the traffic study to be?
It'd have to be the whole thing.
No,
but
The
I
street
mean-
is a bear to get down.
yeah.
What are we studying? We want to know how fast people are going? We want to know
Or how many
cars?
Car count?
Peak,
Because I
peak
mean, I can tell you
times.
it's probably a lot and
Fast.
not as fast as we think.
Right.
Well, there's not gonna be any.
I mean,
speed.
That's
It's
what
not a
it's gonna
speeding
say.
issue, it's
That's what
a
we've seen so far.
congestion
It's a
issue.
volume
That's what we've
issue.
seen so far.
I
Right.
mean, traffic in the morning when they're going to work, and then from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock to the lunch hour.
Yeah,
and
they'll
then
rush the base.
3 o'clock on, you know,
Mhm.
it's the majority of the day.
I'd be more interested in
Busy
looking
street.
at Bob Ring's map that shows all the accidents on that street over the last several years. You know what I mean, the dots.
Yeah, I guess me too. I mean, that's a good example of how the street that's calmed by parking, and parking could be the traffic calming element, but when Dresser lets out, do they still do the stagger and let out people there?
All I know
Probably
is it's
really
about
backed up.
3:15 to 3:30, because if I make the
Yeah.
big mistake going back that way from the high school, I can't turn on.
Mhm. That's true.
I'd be in favor of a traffic study, because before we do anything, we certainly need to
Well, to Nate's
know what
point,
we're
when
dealing
we do
with.
this with the device that we've been using, it's only gonna be good for the block with which we put it in.
Right.
You know, like when we did Front Street or a long stretch of road, you're getting the majority of those cars. Whereas here, each block could be, you know, relatively, not significantly different, but you're gonna get a different number in each block.
Valid point.
Because you fray off
The
on a
two
Washington
biggest
or
to me would
Sullivan.
be the one closest to
The 100
Third
block,
Base,
I would think, yeah.
and then the one closest to Country Fair and Dresser,
Mhm.
or
And the
Credit Union.
Yeah, the one, I would say, I mean, could be either or, but the one after Reed Street, between Reed and Sullivan, because most of the people are gonna be coming from Dresser or the 100 block.
I think the 100 block would give you a fair, how many people are coming off of State Street,
Sure.
heading that way, and how many people are coming back, you know, to get onto State Street and head that way.
That's fine.
That might give, we could do two. You could do one there and do one down by the, you know, in the 400 block too.
I feel like the 100 block is where the congestion is probably the worst
Because of parking.
too.
They can park
That's
there.
where
And
it seems like the street's tightest there, and
Mhm.
that corner's kind of blind around Third Base.
It is.
I'd say that's where I have some houses without,
Yeah.
driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good. point.
The last two
Yeah.
houses behind Third Base are rentals.
Yeah.
John, is the on-street parking uniformly on the same side for the entire length?
No, I don't think it is.
It jumps around.
It
I think
does.
that's what adds to the complexity. You're going
I
down,
agree.
there's cars on one side, and you're
I
going,
agree.
there's cars on the other side. It's like, what the hell's
That's a
going
good
on here?
point.
I agree.
I'm thinking part of the solution might be making the parking uniform.
Yeah.
So everyone's parked on the same side of the street instead of you're
Is
just
there logic to
wrong.
that? Or was that just done?
It's
Piecemeal.
probably just evolved over
Is
the
that-
years, is my guess.
Well, that could be traffic calming though.
That's true.
Is that done intentionally? Huh?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that's done intentionally for traffic calming purposes.
Probably
or-
complaint based.
But you're right.
It's confusing because you're jumping around. But anyways, that's part of
That
the
could be
issue
part-
too,
That could be, yeah.
or maybe part of the issue.
Okay.
But I think the call's probably more where the accidents are happening. I think we could help us
Yep.
sometime there as well.
Okay.
Well, and I think by third base, you have more foot traffic crossing there.
Right, so you do want to calm
Because
traffic
a lot of
down.
people walk, West State, and I always stop because there's people crossing there. It's really between the class cars and third base and people crossing. It is hectic right there.
That brings up another point, I guess, that maybe I could try to look into, and I know it's been discussed. There is speaking of heavy foot traffic, but there is no real crossing. It is from Buffalo Street to Country Fair. They just walk across,
Mhm.
and they're kind of constantly taking their lives in their own hands there.
Mhm.
But
Because
I know
of the
we
way
can't-
that Reed comes out,
Buffalo comes out of an
that
angle.
is,
Yeah, well,
it
because
is dangerous.
the south side of the street doesn't have the sidewalks. They put them in at the credit union, but it doesn't go to that corner, does it? It goes up to Wayne. So yeah, you got people just crossing the grass. And no one wants to walk up to Wayne, go over, and then back down the parking lot.
There's no sidewalks on the other side.
Right? No, not on the south side. No.
Okay. Good points. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Bill,
Little
would you be okay with a traffic study at least on the 100 block of
Yeah, we
North
can do it,
Falls?
we can do it, and they can do it for, what are you doing, for a week, chief?
Yeah, if I'm gonna do it, I'd like to
Do
get
a week
full
on,
week.
100 block and a week on the,
Okay.
down by,
Right.
400 block.
Yeah.
And do 2 studies there, and we can get a comparison on how many cars are,
Great. Thanks.
are using the street. And
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. We have no approval for committee reports, so I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second by Alderman Kent. All in favor? And you're adjourned.
Okay, calling city operations to order. All aldermen are present. I make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous committee meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman George. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There's no unfinished business. New referrals for consideration, discussion, requirement for council approval prior to engagement of outside legal services.
Okay, so this is something that I requested to be put in. I don't need to make a formal motion to postpone. I'm still working on gathering some information before discussing this. So hopefully, I'll be able to, I'll bring this forward in the future. But at this time, I was wondering if, Bill, are you okay talking about bringing up a discussion item as far as municipal solutions and the bond ratings?
Yeah, I think you've been provided, the council has been provided with the Moody's report and with the letter from Jeff Smith as requested. So we did have a discussion about this. I informed the council at the last meeting, so
Okay.
so
Any questions, any further questions about that?
Reading the letter and the report, I think the one thing that popped out at me is just trying to really look at our spending, because one of the things was our outstanding debt, long-term debt, I think it said. So I think going forward as council members, we need to really look at that. That's what I took from the letter.
I think the report, and it's unrealistic that Moody's is recommending, I believe it's in there anywhere from 24 to 30% fund balance. And we have conflicting you know, our own outside auditors say that's, you know, 15 in that area is common, good, and the even though the state comptroller's office won't come out and give an official, but they hint at being around 15%. And I think that's what we based our fund balance policy on, that we would be there, you know, to try to get to that area there. And it's also pointed out in here from Jeff Smith that moving from an A1 to an A2 is really, it's not a real, you know, horrendous thing. We're still in a good rating, and just recently, what was the rating we got, Fred, on what we just bonded, or what we?
The interest rate?
Yeah.
2.15%, so it didn't affect this recent bond issue.
But yes, I think, you know, we all wanna look at our spending, and that's what I think we've been doing over the last several years, and there's just things that come up, and things that, you know, you have to take care of. Here's an example. If you're talking about the 400 block of North 10th Street, you know, as Bob pointed out, to do that right is probably going to be $200,000. So it's just part of doing business. So yeah, I know it's bad. We, you know, I'm not going to say bad. It's you know, being decreased in your bond rating could affect us. But we're trying to find out what the other rating. Did you reply back at it?
Jeff was on the road, but his second in command seemed to think that we're not rated by Standard & Poor's others because we never asked for their services.
Okay.
I would echo what Bill's saying. I mean, someone who is professional that deals with bond ratings, certainly, and follows them, to drop from an A1 to an A2 is minimal. When I first heard the news, I was concerned that we dropped into the B status or something like that. To go from an A1 to an A2, especially with the challenges that we've dealt with, it really it should be a pretty insignificant. Any potential increase that we will see in future debt would be fairly insignificant. So, and I too was actually pretty surprised that I would like to know what municipality has 30%. At least a city, a small city municipality like we are, to have 30% in a fund balance.
Well, and one that's also as committed as the city of Olean has been to investment into revitalization. I mean, yeah, we could have not spent any money.
Correct.
And had the same crap North Union Street, garbage, you know, whatever the hell else we've invested in over the years. But we chose to do these things, try to make Olean better. And so, yeah, we get dinged on that. Who cares?
Yep.
Who cares?
And the other thing to remember too is we just got our fiscal stress report from the comptroller's office, and we are not in fiscal stress. We actually increased in that in the environmental, so we're in good shape there. We're good. So we're not in fiscal stress. So we got a good report for the comptroller's office there.
I would say I think the city's in about as good a financial condition it's been in a long time. So this is just even U.S. Treasuries jump, get downgraded every once in a while. So it's not a big deal.
Anything else on that? It's not on the agenda, but I'd like to bring up one city operation issue. If anyone has any questions or comments, and that's the restriping on West State. It finally got done with lots of rainy weather. It looks nice. I've driven it quite a bit. I thought the company looks like they did a very competent job. It's very demarcated well. A couple observations I've made. It seems, just from what I've driven it in the last, something we've done last week, it seems to run really well when you're traveling east, is what I've noticed. Traveling west, you do get some backup in front of tops. I don't know, we could just keep an eye on it and see. People need to get used to it before there's a lot of fiddling and experimenting. But we should watch it closely and see if that evens out over time as people become accustomed to it. If it continues to be a backup at tops possibly we could look into some solutions. I don't know, play with the light times.
Roundabout.
Good idea, roundabout there. And Bob, it looks like you must have changed the light times at the where Little Caesars is that correct? That seems to come on more frequently.
No, I mean, but that's kind of been in my mind too, is to maybe apply for a CFA traffic study if you were all open to it, and kind of see what the optimal timing would be. Just, you've got more queuing, right, so you need more space for cars to go through. We could just go out and add some time to Little Caesars, Tops, and Independence, like add 20 seconds, because the cross streets probably won't back up. Independence does maybe a little bit, but we could do that if we,
I wonder if that
preempt it.
20th Street now, the more cars are using 20th Street. There's a trip on there, isn't there?
Yeah,
20th?
the 20th Street, that's the Little Caesars, right?
Yeah.
Is that a tripped one?
Yeah, it won't turn red unless the car activating the loop.
It's not on any type of timer, only when the car activates the loop?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, I'll have to watch that one more. One question I have is when you're traveling down State Street now, there is, from the lane line to the curb is like a dead zone. Is that a bike path or is that just a dead zone?
No, it's not really a designated bike path.
I mean, there's no
More
bike
like-
symbol, but I'm going to be asked by someone, so I want to know the answer.
It's kind of like a safety. I mean,
It's just
shoulder,
a buffer?
It's a shoulder. I mean, the best word for it is a shoulder.
Is it legal to ride a bike in it?
Yes.
Okay.
We couldn't get the, I believe it's 6 feet required for an actual bike lane, but we felt that having that line there, that's gonna keep the cars, well, it's gonna be a safe area for bikes too, somewhat of a safe area, but also, where we had the problem with our storm drains, cars hitting them all the time, that's gonna keep them away from the curb line, and should preserve our storm drains and not have all the problems we do. I know I shattered my teeth a few times getting caught over there and hitting one of our storm drains and, the sewer grates. Yeah, but,
What's that?
yeah, that's, that'll keep them away from the curb line and, if you do go out there on a bike, it'll give you somewhat of an area to be in.
Okay.
But we couldn't get an official bike lane there because it's not wide enough.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions or comments on the restriping?
Well, we stopped at Independence Drive because that's the city line, correct? Okay, just checking. I always know that was like a weird funnel that the state did to us, so I didn't know. You know what I mean? And now it's going to transition people better.
Yeah.
But it's still a learning curve because it's so
Actually
wide.
getting some comments on it. Instead of all the negativity out there, we're getting comments on it. I see, some of the comments on Facebook from, especially if people who live on the street, is that they like it. Safer now, traffic calming.
Traffic calm.
Very calm, serene.
Uh,
I have a comment I'll make.
Yeah.
I guess I haven't been paying much attention whenever I drive past there, but the farmer's market is looking, wow, like where did that all come from? That looks amazing.
Yeah, it's done.
That is going to be
Texas.
fantastic.
The other thing, the old library restaurant, I was there Sunday night and for an event, and they're doing a lot of renovations in there. The front is going to be fantastic when they get that done, and that's going to tie into that whole area.
Yep.
So I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, I do too.
Things, so.
Yeah. That's really shocking when you look over there and you see that the
I know,
thing up.
I
You're just like,
agree, I
whoa,
can't get used to it yet.
that looks great.
No, I thought you meant old library, I can't get used to
Oh, yeah.
those bushes out and the awning, like, I'm not used to that yet.
As Dan DeServo and his wife said, that's going to give them another dining room in the summer months out there. They'll have, so that'll be. But it's coming very good. So.
Okay. Any other comments for city ops? No?
One quick one, Nate, just because it's come up in my neighborhood, and I talked to Bob, and Bob gave me kind of a simple solution for it. The storm drains right now are covered, and I'm getting calls, and so I call Bob, and he's like, well, it would be great if people would just go out and take a shovel and just shovel out your own storm drains. And so I did it on our street, and so it you know, it's not that difficult. It's something that everyone could step up and help out their neighborhood, rather than complain about a problem and wait for someone to come and fix it. Just, you can fix it yourself. So
Just like the fire
To
hydrants.
piggyback off him, one of the things you have to watch for, there was an issue in my ward with the drains. And when we got down there, Jeff and I went down there were baby raccoons living in there.
really,
Yeah.
So
We
bring
were
a
able to
gun
get 'em
and a
out of
shovel?
there. They were on, right at the bottom of Bell and Queen.
We had a pretty good sized snake in one. So before you stick your hand on one,
Yeah.
take a look.
You guys are reaching out into them? Like, I would just
Yeah.
break the top off it and be
No,
done.
no, they knew something was down in there.
Oh.
They were seeing things. We got calls that maybe it was a cat, so we went and looked, but they were baby raccoons.
Yeah,
And the
we
neighbors
had a
asked
whole
help
duck
with that.
family in one of
So just
ours.
be careful, you know.
yeah.
Your road.
Huh?
Yeah, that's what happened to Python. Didn't you, American Tail?
Did
No?
you neuter them and release them back?
Back into the storm sewer.
Sorry, we're getting way off track here. I do have
No,
a.
it was legit.
I agree with John. It's one of those things we can solve ourselves, not necessarily make a call. So good suggestion, cleaning up the grates. There's no committee reports to approve. I make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Goodall. All in favor? Oh, you're not?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Witt. All in favor?
Aye.
You are waiting till the last minute.
Any opposed?
I'm so sorry to bring it up,
Adjourn.
I just noticed that it was really bad.
Abstain.
Just a reminder, cat pictures are out there in Ward 5 right now, so.
Yeah, have they been working though?
Yeah, people are calling and asking when their awards are gonna be
Waiting
done.
for a report from them.
They haven't done it yet.
They have been out there.
Oh,